would have no patience with him. The strange thing about Tony's song was that no one knew how he had come to be it. He sang a little bit of it in the days when he looked for edelweiss, seeking the little white flowers that grow on the edge of the snow on the Alps, and when he brought any back they were tied in bunches and offered for sale to the strangers. That was before he had grown so silent, before the time when the great cobweb seemed to have wrapped him round, before he wandered into a dream and shut the door on the waking world. One day he came back with his basket empty. "But where is the edelweiss?" his mother asked. "I did not see any," he answered, and sat down beside the smoking wood. Then he began the song he had known since he could sing at all, but this time there was something that his mother had never heard before. "Where didst thou learn that?" she asked, but Tony would not speak. "It is hard on thee," Gaspard's wife said, "that thy son should be a fool." "Nay, he is no fool," the mother answered. "But he cannot tell even where he learnt the song," the woman said. "He learnt it in the clouds, or on the mountainside, farther up than our feet can climb. What may be there, only the like of Tony can tell." And she waited scornfully for Gaspard's wife to go, but then she sighed sadly enough. "Surely he will some day awaken," she thought, "or what will be the good of him?" But from that time Tony forgot more and more the things he was told to do, and lived among his dreams, which grew so tangled that even he could not tell the sleeping from the waking ones. It was only in the summer that the days passed thus. When the storms came and the snow descended, the hotels and all the chalets on the mountain were closed, and the peasant and herdsmen and their families and their flocks went down to the valley for the winter. Tony and his parents lived with a neighbor at the entrance to the village, all of them huddled together in a wooden dwelling. The floods came, and the wind swept past, and the snowdrift piled higher and higher against the windows, till it was hardly possible for any light to enter the close and smoky room. Tony used to watch his father cutting bits of wood. Chip by chip he seemed to take away the walls that held little animals and men and women in prison. He never realized that his father's sharp knife and precise eye shaped the toys, or understood that it was just for the sake of the money they would bring that his mother placed them away so carefully till the dealer from Geneva came to buy them, or till it was time to put them on the tray outside the chalet door so that the strangers might see and bargain for them. One winter there was a dark, knotty morsel of wood that fascinated him. Every morning as he drank his milk, his eyes wandered toward it. In the evening, as he crouched shiveringly by the smoldering fire beneath the black soup pot, he kept his eyes fixed on it, and wondered what strange thing it concealed. One day his father took it up, and turning it over and over, began to cut, till there came forth the figure of a little woman who had on her face an expression of listening and waiting. Tony's father looked at her and held her up before him, when he had taken off the last bits of wood that clung to her. "Maybe thou art expecting someone to come and bear thee company," he said, speaking to it affectionately, as though it were a child. "But I do not know of any thou canst have, unless Tony here will please thee." Tony, shrinking back, fancied that the woman's eyes turned towards him. "She's only wood, my lad," his mother said, "and tomorrow she will be sent to the dealers far off. There is nothing to be afraid of. She cannot move, and in things that cannot move no danger lies. All things that live and move have power to frighten, but not this bit of wood that has been shaped by thy father's knife." But Tony crept out of the chalet and trampled the soft snow underfoot, and he was afraid of the little wooden woman lying still and wide-eyed in the smoky chalet. When he went back, his mother looked up and said, just as if she had divined his thoughts, "Our neighbor Lois has gone to Geneva to look for mules for the summer. He has taken all thy father's carving with him, so thou needest not be afraid of the little woman any more." This had happened more than a year ago, and Tony had forgotten the piece of wood and what had come from it. Now his father was carving again, and making ready for the dealer who arrived once a year to buy their winter's work from the peasants. And if the dealer would not buy, the little figures would be put away in a drawer ready for the strangers. "If I were but like one of them," Tony used to think as he saw them wrapped in soft paper, "to be always little, to be handled tenderly and put to sleep in a drawer till the summer, and then to be warmed through and through by the sun, why should they have legs that never ache and hands that never work? It was a cold morning when the dealer came, a dark, silent man, black-haired, with overhanging eyebrows. "Who is this?" he asked, looking at Tony. "He is my son," the father said, "but little enough good is he, save to sing." "Is he the boy whose song the goatherds say was learnt in the clouds?" "It may be." "Ah, Tony's song is known all down the valley and over the mountain too," his mother said. "A stranger came to Geneva once and tried to sing it," the dealer said, "but he could not remember it all." "It is no good to Tony," the father said. "He is only a fool and will not use his hands and feet." Then the mother spoke up for her son. "Don't judge him harshly," she said. "Surely some are made to use their hands and some their feet, and some it may just be their hearts to feel and their lips to speak. Does he not sing a song he has fetched from the clouds? Let that travel instead of his feet, and work instead of his hands." "He's called the wooden-head," his father went on, unheeding, "and he might well be all wooden but for his song. The rest of him is no good. A song has something lived longer than the strongest hands that ever worked for bread, and traveled farther than the swiftest runner," said the mother. "And he would be like one of those," the father added, pointing to the little carved figures he had made. "They were hidden in a block of wood, just as thy song is hidden in thee," his mother said, looking at Tony fondly. "He would be better without his song," his father said. "He might dream less and work more." The dealer considered and was silent, and when he spoke again, he spoke slowly. "Let him go to the city with me, to Geneva," he said, "and I will take the song from his lips and send it over the world." "Tony," asked his father, "wilt thou go to Geneva? Perhaps there thou wouldst get thy wish to be far off and very little." "Ah," said his mother with a heart that stood still, "but I have heard it said that a wish and its fulfillment sometimes find themselves strange company. But go if thou wilt, dear lad, there is much in the world I would not keep thee from seeing it." The peasants came out of their chalets and stood at their doors, watching Tony as he went through the village with the dealer. But Tony did not see them. He walked as one who was dazed. The icicles hung like a fringe on the waterfall, and everywhere the sun had kissed it there rested a little golden star. But he did not look up as he passed by. He kept his eyes toward the long straight road, and wondered if in the stems of the fir trees beside it there dwelt strange figures like those his father had set free with his knife. The dealer pulled some wire from his pocket and fashioned it carefully as he walked on. But he said no word until a village was far behind, and they could no longer hear the trickle of the unfrozen water. Then he looked up and said, "Sing." Mechanically, as though he were a puppet of which the string had been pulled, Tony began to sing, and the dealer twanged the wire in his hands till it almost echoed the song. But Tony did not hear it. Over his senses had stolen a great rest. He walked as though before him he saw the land of his dreams, and presently would enter its gateway. Twang, twang, went the wire. The fir trees swayed a very little in the breeze, more and more as the twilight deepened, as the night came on. Tony turned his face toward them. He felt as if he knew them. He wanted to go to them, to walk among them as his friends. But something held him and he could not. The trees knew him and held out their arms. They whispered a message, but he did not understand it. But he was going to understand them, to learn their language and ponder their secrets. Twang, twang, went the wire. The trees were wrapped in darkness at last, but Tony did not stop. He went on, and on, without stopping, into the blackness, till that too was behind, and toward him slowly stole the morning light. There was a range of low mountains far in the distance. They rose higher and higher as he drew near as if to greet him. "Sing," said the dealer. But his song was different. It seemed no longer to come from his heart, but only from his lips, and as he sang he heard the notes repeated. The song was going out of him and on to the dealer's wire. He did not look toward it. He did not care. He felt nothing keenly. His legs were growing stiff and his feet were hard, yet lighter to lift than they had been. He was not tired or warm or cold or glad or sorry, but only in a dream. The fir trees were far, far behind now. Tony and the dealer had passed other villages than the one from which they had started yesterday. They were nearer to the mountains that had